But yeah, awesome. Looks like we have settled down a little bit. So excited today to talk with you all about customizing Sparky and Flint. There's a lot of things that our team has added here and there, and we kind of realized that we never gave a holistic view of all the different options here. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. Yeah, very excited to go through it with you all. So, as always, I'll start off with some ice-breaking news. So, some news that has come up recently that I think might be worth discussing and is somewhat related to this topic usually. And then we'll talk about customizing Sparky mostly for yourself and your students in chats and activities. And then we'll talk about the customizations that you can add to either your workspace if you're an admin or a group or a teacher. And then finally, we'll have some time to share ideas, gather feedback. I've asked a couple teachers specifically if they can share what they've been working on. Of course, if you have anything that your school has been doing or that you personally have been doing in this topic, please feel free to share there. Really want this to be like as much a session for you all as it is for me just talking. So, great. As always, the recording will be available later and questions are welcome at any time. And yeah, with that, I'll dive into the ice-breaking news. So yesterday I saw this article from the Harvard Gazette where they were kind of talking to a couple of different experts about what they think AI will look like in 2050. And this person, Gardner, who is the person who kind of founded the idea of multiple intelligences, basically how intelligence can take multiple different forms like athletic intelligence. I'm not sure of the specific like labels that he added to it, but there's like musical, athletic, academic. So he's like kind of a person in the space who has been doing a lot of thinking about what it means to like master something. And I thought it was interesting that he said, by 2050, his vision is that every child would need only a few years of schooling in the 3 years, which he kind of fudged into reading, writing, arithmetic, and like a little bit of coding knowledge. And he said that after that, he has this vision where teachers function more as coaches and expose students to activities that would challenge their thinking, that would expose them to new ideas and guide them towards professions that they're personally excited about. So yeah, he says like, going to school for 10 or 15 years won't make as much sense. And I think what he's describing is basically personalized learning. Like the students get this very basic baseline knowledge, and then after that, it's really all about fostering their own growth and their own interests. So yeah, I think this is very interesting. I don't know if you all have any takes on it, but I think that AI could play a big part in this, and I do think like regardless of how AI gets embedded into education, it looks like that the role of teachers will change a lot as well. So not sure if you all have any ideas around that. If not, that's okay. I do think it's like a pretty interesting story that they've written there, so highly recommend checking it out after this session if you have the time. But yeah, I'll go ahead and dive into the content that I've prepped for today. So first we'll cover chats and activities and how you can kind of cater Sparky to your own needs here. Yeah, and the first thing really is that in chats and throughout other interactions that you have with Sparky, both like in activities and also in the activity builder, you can set memories for Sparky. So actually by default, Sparky already should know if you're a teacher or student and will treat you differently depending on this. So it's much more helpful to teachers and a bit more like a responsible tutor for students. But then after that, you can tell Sparky to remember your communication preferences, who and what grade you teach, and then also like how you prefer to teach. So, you know, do you do like more hands-on stuff? Do you give a lot of quizzes, knowledge checks, project-based learning versus like inquiry versus direct instruction? And giving all of that context to Sparky can help a lot as you're using it as a teaching assistant. So in my example here, this is a chat that I had with Sparky where I was kind of giving him or her, still kind of deciding, I think, some context about myself. And yeah, actually, like if you're not entirely sure like what specifically you should be giving Sparky in order for it to help you most with what you need, you can just ask. So here I said, what should you know about me as a teacher in order to be a great teaching assistant for me? And then Sparky just said like, okay, here are some of the questions I have. So like teaching context, student needs, your own preferences, and also logistics. And then so I wrote this like paragraph with some of those details in there. And then yeah, so it remembered that for me, and all of those are now in my memory for Sparky. And I even asked it to like clarify like what specific things did it memorize, and it gave me the bullets there. Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
So I just wanted to clarify that the only way to get Sparky to have some memories for you is through a chat. Because I go into my profile, it's a place for me to delete memories, but I couldn't figure out until you just explained how to give it memories.
Yeah. So
Okay.
giving it memories is through the chat. I think we wanted it to like mostly be learning from you gradually. So that's like we've definitely enabled that there. In the profile, it's mostly like to manage the memories. You can like see them, delete them. But yeah, that's how it is right now. Let me know if you have any feedback for that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and like that being said, also to clarify, you can also go in and ask Sparky to edit any of the memories that it's made for you or delete them. So I will actually ask it to add something. I'm going to say, can you remember that I prefer concise messages from you when it comes to working with my students? I'm sure this will vary based on the context, but I want you to speak to me very directly and concisely. I maybe could have worded that much shorter, but I think more is always better here, since at least Sparky is the one that's like writing the actual prompt for himself. So you might have seen it very briefly there, but he said, let me memorize that. So yeah, and now it's already started to apply that. Got it. I'll keep my responses to you brief and direct. Yeah, so anything that you want Sparky to remember about you, whether it's like the subject that you teach, what sorts of things that you want to use AI for even, and some of the preferences that you have as it communicates with you, I would definitely like go ahead and start trying that out in the memory settings by telling it what to memorize. And yeah, this will carry across chats and also as you're like building activities. So this is like great for, you know, if you're using Flint a lot for like lesson plan brainstorming or for comment writing, then you can give Sparky some of those prompts that you find yourself like regularly putting into the beginning of your chats. And then that way, like once you start a new chat, you don't have to remind the system like what your preferences are or who you are really. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
Hi, I'm sorry for any background noise. We're in the middle of a passing period. If I'm in charge of bringing people onto platforms like Flint, would this be a useful thing to set up in like a teacher workspace as a like an onboarding activity? You know, as a teacher is getting used to Flint, set up an activity where they have a chat and then learn some of the features of Flint, all with Sparky.
Yes, yeah. I would say for sure. I think we have one. I can find it in a bit and then share it with you, but we have like a template in the public library that kind of walks you through the different things that Flint can do. I actually don't think it includes memory yet, so maybe we should add that to it. But yeah, I would definitely say that like this is like a great starting point, and then I think it would like really help teachers start to like get familiar and comfortable with Flint if Flint knows about them already. So yeah, great idea. Cool. Okay, and then the other thing that I wanted to walk through with you all in this section is the activity builder. So typically in my sessions, I will build an activity using the builder chat. But today, actually, I want to show you all the settings that are behind all of this chat. So typically, when you're in Flint, you can build just conversationally with Sparky. And I do recommend this for most people because, then you don't have to like think about the specific wording of your prompting as much. And you don't have to worry about like one part of the prompt being kind of contradictory to the other parts. Because whenever you're building conversationally with Sparky, it will evaluate all of the prompt that you have so far and then add to it where it sees fit. And it's also just a lot faster. So yeah, typically people are building conversationally, but I did want to just go through the build manually with you all today and kind of talk through the different features in here. Because I do think it's helpful to know like what is on this end of the settings in order to know what you should like conversationally ask Sparky for. Yeah, so we have 5 sections here. There's the overview for the activity, some of the like basic housekeeping information. The behavior one is the biggest piece, where this is you're kind of crafting Sparky's persona, what its goals are, and how it should be interacting with students. And then we have the language piece, and then grading and some of the assignment logistics. So yeah, I would say that this overview piece, you don't really have to remember too much about it other than you could ask it to change the emoji and color if you want. But yeah, this is just going to show the name for the activity. So if there's ever like a specific name that you want to set, you can set it in here or ask Sparky to set it. And then it will also write a brief summary that will be displayed on the activity page. And then for the behavior here, so there are some like new things that we've added somewhat recently, but for a while we've had this grade level system, and by grade level we really just mean like proficiency level. So there's of course like the US, UK, and IB grades, but we also have CFR and ACTFL levels for languages. And so, yeah, maybe it's a good thing to like remember that you can also request those things rather than just saying like, oh, it's like grade 4 Spanish, because that could mean a lot of different things in different schools. Yeah, and then there's also a role that will be set for Sparky. This is kind of like the persona statement, like, oh, is Sparky being a tutor? Is Sparky being a debate coach or a debate partner? Or is Sparky pretending to be a student and the student pretends to be the teacher kind of situation? And then we have response style. This is something that's new. You can ask Sparky to kind of like on a spectrum of how detailed and long its responses should be, because we've been hearing a lot of feedback that, AI tends to be way more verbose than needed. So we kind of added this like direct control in Flint. And yeah, through the build with Sparky, it's like good to remember that you can like control this and tell it to be like more concise or more thorough depending on the activity. Yeah, and then here, there's guidelines, instructions basically for it to follow. This will typically be the section that has the most text by the end of your conversations with Sparky. The greeting message is also here, and then you can also have like suggestions for responses for students, kind of like for both like the first message and follow-up messages. So sometimes teachers turn this off, and like, yeah, that's just like a reminder that you can turn it off. But yeah, you can like have those like initial messages kind of templated almost for students to get started. And then you can also allow Sparky to show follow-up suggestions or not. Yeah, and then in the language settings, yeah, we support a bunch of different languages and some different dialects. I think there's like 500 in here, so there's quite a lot there. You can also ask Sparky to have like a secondary language, essentially meaning that, students could speak in either language and Sparky will allow it in a way. in any context though, Sparky should understand like all of the languages that it has access to, but it might just not like entertain it unless you have like the secondary language there. Yeah, and then Sparky also supports text-to-speech and speech-to-text. So that's also something to remember. If you want the students to speak aloud to Sparky, they can do that. If you want Sparky to speak aloud to the students, they can also do that. And like any sort of combination there, you could like remove the writing aspect, just have students listen. Yeah, all of those things. And then in the grading rubric, you can like allow or disallow auto grading. You can show the rubric to students also if you want to, so that they kind of know like what they should be striving for. And then of course, like there's grade levels that can be set with the criteria for those grades. Yeah, and like this can take on any form. You can do like an A through F kind of rubric. You can do like a 0 to 100, although usually Sparky will then like bucket it into like 10 points, or like a 1 through 7, or even qualitative grades. And then last piece, I promise. So the assignment piece is that, you know, these are more like the housekeeping things. So you can like pause an activity where maybe you don't want students to use it yet, but like you want to go ahead and put it in the group and get it situated. And then you can like unpause it, and then start letting them access the activity and like pause it again if you want to like no longer let them access it. You can set a duration for interaction. I know a lot of teachers have been using this as like a way to like let students know like, hey, you don't have to do anymore, because the AI will continue going on and just like chat with them forever. So yeah, sometimes that's like helpful to let students know like when they're good to be finished. Yeah, you can set a date to release the activities to students and a deadline for when it should be done, and you know, allow or disallow students to remove their sessions or unsubmit their sessions. So the removing would be, you know, if they like completely just like remove that session from view. And then unsubmitting would be, you know, after they submitted it, if they want to like unsubmit and then like do more and like see if they can get a better grade usually. Yeah. So I think like pieces to highlight in all of that are that you can now change the response style and length of Sparky. So I would like remember to request that as needed. You can also guide Sparky in like whether or not it should suggestions to students. And then for languages, of course, you can like make it writing or speaking or both. And yeah, I think those are some of the big pieces that people kind of figure out over time, but just wanted to give you all like the cheat sheet for where to see that. Joel is asking, could you pause the session at the end of one class and then unpause so students can continue work on the activity in class next day? Yes, exactly. I think that was like one of the main use cases we built that for. So yeah, once like even if students are like in the middle of a session, if you pause it, they won't be able to like continue it or anything. And they also can't start new sessions. So then once you unpause it, then they'll be able to like continue any sessions that they've been working on and create new ones for that activity. Rachel's asking, are we able to change the voice of Sparky? We don't quite have that yet. I think the library of voices that we use is kind of set for like each language. I think if you like tell Sparky to take on like a deeper tone or like a different kind of voice, it can try, but it's not like super distinct, I would say. But I have heard Sparky like a deeper tone or like use a higher pitch in various different aspects or contexts. Oh yeah, Geetha, sorry to hear that you have bad connection, but yes, since you're here and anyone who has registered will get a recording of this. Cool. Any other questions about memories or like the different settings that you can set in activities? Awesome. Okay. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next section then, which is the workspace and group settings in Flint. So this is like where I would suggest like either you can put in context on like how your school is approaching AI or how your school approaches learning in general, and also how like that applies to specific classrooms or other groups that you might be creating, but usually groups are for classrooms. But yeah, so for groups, there's this learning goals and background piece, which I can show you all where that is here. So if you go into one of the groups that you have, and then in the top right, there should be a group settings option. If you don't see it on a smaller screen, it might be in the 3 dots. But if you click on there, the learning goals and background should be in the panel here. And so essentially you want to just like add context about your students and your learning goals for them, and also any like context on how you want Sparky to interact with them. So then whenever you have like one of your activities and then you want to move it into one of your groups, that can apply across the activities that you have in that group. So yeah, basically like it's a rule that trickles down to any of the activities that you have in that group for your students. Yeah, and then sorry, lost my tab. Okay. Yeah, and I actually created a public library activity to kind of guide you all through this. It will just like ask you a bunch of questions on what might be helpful in your learning goals and background, and then you can, and then it will actually generate that text for you. What we've been encouraging people to do is like, you can actually use AI to write what these instructions should be, since AI is actually pretty good at prompting other AI. So yeah, I would definitely like, even if you just like have a chat with Sparky, or you can use this activity that I've made, that can help you to create the draft at least for what this piece should be. Yeah, Kelly has a couple questions. So she's asking what the memory cap is for individual users. Yeah, I think it's 6 memories right now. Let me see if I can check that. There is a cap, and let's see.
Sorry,
Okay,
I'll come off of mute. Hi, Sarah. Anyways, yeah, is there, because I noticed when you save the memories in your profile, sometimes it'll save like 5 or 6 memories within like one little chunk. And I'm about to do a training today on it, so I want to make sure that I tell them, because if you say, hey, Sparky, remember this, that chunk will stay in one box. I don't know if are you saying there's like 6 chunks that we get to save? And can we be cheeky and put like 6 in one?
Yeah. It should be 6 chunks. And honestly, that's why I would like just work with Sparky through the chat. Because if you've asked it like 6 separate times to save memory, but then like you ask it another time on top of that, it will know to like add it to one of the chunks. So yeah.
And then the last thing that you just said, when you do a group setting, say I have a 6th grade Spanish and I set my group setting with 6th grade, and then I have an 8th grade group setting, but I'm using the same assignment. Are you saying that if they then copy an assignment from group 6 and they want to use the same assignment in group 8, will it take on the group settings of group 8, or do we need, so it'll apply through at the top level?
Yes, yeah. I also had this question actually this morning, and I just got the answer from our engineers. But the top level rule should like apply with priority, I guess. But I would definitely test it out. Let me know if that's like not happening. Maybe even it's just like as you create activities, like don't mention a specific grade level and more so focus on the goals, and then let the group settings handle the grade levels.
Okay, I'll test it out. I was trying to figure out, like, if you had, for example, AP Heritage Spanish has got a really good assignment, 10th, 11th, 12th. If we brought that AP Heritage Spanish down to a 6, 7, 8,
Yeah,
It might go reverse.
I think it should, but I do think, like, it is like a situation where you're telling AI like one thing in one place and one thing in another place. So yeah, it still might be best practice to just like tell it like, hey, can you adjust this activity for this new grade level? Because yeah, even if it's like changing like the language that it's using, it might not change the content in a way. So just want to like double check that all of that is being updated. Yeah, thanks for the questions. Yeah, and Aisha is asking, if an administrator sets a description within a workspace, can a teacher also create a description that overrides the school description? Can they add to current descriptions that add more class-specific descriptions to a school-wide template? Yeah, so I think, so based on the logic of like it all trickling down, the workspace level mission and background, which is on the next slide here, the workspace mission and background should like take precedence over the class descriptions. But of course, like, if it's adding on top of the mission and background, that would be best, I think. So yeah, as a school, you can like set in the mission and background, like your educational philosophy, or like talk about like proper AI usage, or anything like that. And then can like give more specific context about their class. I would say that's like the best practice. But yes, I think is the answer to your question. And then Andrea is asking, how can I keep students' individual progression in their language proficiency? Also, is it capable to generate individual input based on their language proficiency? Yes, I think I'm understanding your question correctly. But if you want to unmute and clarify a bit, please do. But yeah, you can, I've seen teachers do this a couple different ways, I guess. So if you have a like mixed class at completely different levels, you could create subgroups in your group, and like those subgroups can also have their own guidance. So you could like create like a group that's like, at level, and then maybe a group that requires more guidance, and then duplicate the same activity with like the same base instructions into each, and then it will like help them at different levels. But of course, you could also like create different activities that just like have different prompting there. And then also by default already, Sparky kind of like gets a sense of how students are doing and will like help them where they're at. So I think like honestly the simplest way to like help with this is you can just tell Sparky like, hey, this is like a mixed class of students where like some of them are doing really well and some of them are not yet. So like they can like ask them directly about what they think their proficiency is, or over time you can say like, hey, give more guidance to the students who are struggling, and push students who are like doing really well, and it can differentiate in that type of way. But yeah, great questions, everyone. And then Carolyn said that she has a question about the mission and moderation guidelines as they connect to a vocabulary. Can we create a group mission where we set expectations for etiquette, respectful language, and academic integrity? Yeah. I would definitely say, yeah, if there's any like specific ways that you want to either like restrict or guide students in how they're communicating with AI or anyone for that matter, that would definitely go really well in the moderation guidelines, because that's where Sparky's like getting the input about how it should respond to like messages that get flagged either for like harassment or violence, or also for self-harm. So yes, but you can also put that in your own like class groups. If there's like a specific etiquette that you want students to follow, I would definitely put that in and like tell Sparky how to react in that situation, so that it kind of knows like what is okay and what's not, and how it should respond. Great. Yes, but yeah, Kelly is pointing out there is a cap of 1,000 characters for these sorts of like mission and background moderation settings, all of that. So that is also where I would say like, having AI help you write it can help. And then I would also like, make sure that things that are most important to you are like emphasized more, of course, and like things that are a bit ancillary, you can like try and like put that more concisely. But yeah, for the workspace side of things, which are in the settings and members here in the workspace, it's on the general page, but you just have to scroll down a bit. For these two pieces, I also created a template here. Oh, and by the way, you all will get these slides once the session is over, so you can have the links to everything. Oh yeah, and I think I put the links in the comments, but I can put it on the slide so that it's easier to access. But yeah, these are the mission and background for the school. I think is like a great place to put things like, context on like where your school is, like even what country it's in, so that Sparky knows like not to be as Western centric as it defaults to be. Yeah, and you can like put additional guidelines on like your AI policy, educational philosophy, even like a focus for what you want AI to be used for. And then in the moderation guidelines, that's where I think it's like important to put like local resources to help students if like a self-harm message is flagged, or even like even if your school wants to like draft a message that Sparky should send to students whenever something like that happens, you can also put that in there just so that you know how AI will respond in that moment, because I know that that has been like a top of mind concern for many administrators, but also just in general, like how it should deal with inappropriate behavior would be a good thing to include in that one. But yeah, so that's like kind of all of the different pieces to Sparky. There's like the memories for yourself as you're interacting with Sparky. In the activity settings, that's where you can adjust how Sparky interacts with your students. And then you have the group settings and then the workspace settings, so you can like add additional context as to like what individuals are in what buckets of people. Yeah, awesome. So that's all I had content-wise for today. Of course, if any questions pop up, please feel free to ask. But I did ask a couple of people to come share their experience with Flint and what they've been doing at their school to kind of shape Sparky to act appropriately in the way that they want. Yeah, and one of those people is Colin Bridgewater from the American School in London. Yeah, take it away, Colin. Stage is yours.
Great. Thanks, Lulu. I do want to say this, we've been so impressed with everybody at Flint in terms of how responsive you've been when we've had questions and we've made suggestions. And we've also seen other things that we haven't asked for that you guys have said have been based on suggestions from everybody. So that's been great to see. I don't know if you want me to talk or if you want me to share my screen. I can share the window just so I can do that. So the first thing we did in August was that we looked at that mission and background and we talked about, oh, we only have 1,000 characters. And as Lulu said, we used Sparky to help us that because we have a mission statement, we have our portrait of a learner, we have our DEI statement, and all of that is way over 1,000 characters. So we use Sparky to get it down there. And in addition to all those things, just explain, well, we're an American international school. And so we told, there's no national curriculum in America. We told them what standards we follow and tried to put that all in there and got it into 943 characters. And it's been really great to see that when students especially go against our core values, Sparky jumps right on that and points out that they're behaving in a way that doesn't follow our core values of kindness or respect and that kind of thing. So this mission and background has been working really well. And then same with the moderation guidelines. Obviously, we have different places for kids to call if they need help, if they're in crisis than in other countries. So we were able to put in those very region specific emails and phone numbers that they can call. And then we've got our email notifications and it goes straight to our safeguarding lead. And that's worked really well. We find Sparky's maybe a little bit too eager to report things, but we'd rather Sparky report things that we really aren't worried about than maybe under-reporting. So in that sense, that's been fine. And then in addition to doing that, what we really like and what we've seen from our teachers is this ability to upload files and then be really specific, because even though in a chat, Sparky won't give the answers, we find that in activities, it's sometimes too helpful. And so most teachers have learned that they have to really come in here and do things like say important, don't give answers. In this case, it's a science teacher, so wanted to tell Sparky, don't say you're right or you're correct, but just praise them for some of the hypotheses they've come up with. And then that's also been the case in this one I've done for writing. I found it was, again, giving too many analogies or sample answers. And so I actually worked with Lulu last spring, and we talked about how I can strengthen these instructions. And then I've put them on our learning management system for teachers. And so I've got this whole script so that if my teachers want to just copy and paste that, they can put that in the build manually, or they can tweak it the way they want it. And that way we don't have to start from scratch every time in terms of asking Sparky to do something. The other thing that we found was that a lot of our kids are not submitting their sessions. And although you can still look at a session after if it hasn't been submitted, and Sparky will still give individual feedback if a session hasn't been submitted, Sparky won't look at the whole group of sessions until they've been submitted. And so if you want that sort of overall class feedback, you need the kids to submit them. And yes, a teacher can go in and manually submit them. I've gotten this text that I just tell teachers to copy and paste into their Sparky instructions, which is put in the quote, please don't forget to click the submit session button in the upper right-hand corner before you just sort of log off. So sometimes it's big picture stuff, sometimes it's little stuff, but we've found Sparky to be really responsive, and it's been really great to see how just in the 3 months we've been using it, how quickly new features have been added. It's been great.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, that was great to see. I'm glad that especially like the mission and background is like really on top of students. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Does anyone have questions for Colin or comments? I guess your presentation was very clear. Awesome. And then I also asked Kat Barinch, I hope is how you pronounce your last name, who is an instructional technologist at Creighton Preparatory School. I think I saw that you're here, Kat. Feel free to take it away also. I think she just popped back on.
I'm here, but I'm not sure my mic is working. Am I working?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I just want to say hi to Colin, actually, to start. Colin and I worked together at the American School in London, and I had no idea that we would both be on this call, and we would both actually be asked to present by Lulu, so that's super, super fun. So hi, Colin. So yeah, we've been using Flint now this is our second year of using Flint. I am not in London anymore. I'm talking to you from Omaha, Nebraska, and I am at a 9 through 12 all boys Jesuit school in Omaha, Creighton Preparatory School. I was going to cover some of the stuff Colin did, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. I've got so many Flint tabs open. I'm not sure which one I'm sharing right now. Let's go with this one. So let me see which one I'm on. Hopefully I am on this one. I am, perfect. Like Colin shared, I mean, we've done a lot here in our sort of settings and members section. And this was done by our director of technology, but our mission and background, of course, as a Jesuit school certainly has some specificity to it. And so making sure, we've included our grad at grad and things like that. And like Lulu said and Colin said, and I think Kelly might have put in the comments, you are limited to 1,000 characters. So I think that was a big task, is to kind of parse the information and get it down to where you wanted to. But I think that was really good in a way, because it got us to really focus on what was super, super intent. We wanted to be really intentional with that. And we're in kind of that same boat. Everything's ticked off here, and emails get sent and things like that. But what I guess I'll do to make it a little bit different is a little bit about my customizations. So my role here at Prep is I am a part-time teacher. So I teach 2 sections of US history. You can see that over here. And then the other half of my job is being a tech integration person, if you will. So I'll show you from me as a teacher what I've done even to kind of customize. A lot of it is just a repeat of what Lulu said, but you can maybe see it from like a live class teacher thing here. So I really started, and I'm like 99.9% sure I did this while Lulu was teaching me something during a campfire chat. Like, you know how you multitask, right? So I know that I started this all off with a chat, and so it's sort of, here's my teacher profile information chat, and Sparky helped me to craft what I wanted that to look like and sound like. Super helpful. And then I went over here to my profile, and in my profile settings, you can see here like that is there, sort of the about me. I'll come back to the memories later, and then if I scroll down a little bit, there's my profile. So I find that to be super important, and I do think Sparky does a great job when I'm crafting activities or when I'm having a chat with Sparky of adhering to that, and I find that to be really, really helpful. I love that personalization of it. And then I think the other thing sort of worth showing, and then I'll wrap up, is that the memories is really, really great. One of my goals this year on my classroom side of my job was to generate my own DBQs. And to customize and make those the way I knew I wanted them to fit my US history curriculum. And so after, you can see here, that's one of my memories, is my teaching preferences on my DBQ. And it was as simple as, I'm going to pop out of here and go to my chat for this. It was as simple as, when I got to a good point there, saying I would love for this DBQ chat to be added to my memories. And I love that that's all you got to do with Sparky, is to say, I really want this to be one of my 6 core memories. And because this is something, you can see DBQ popping up here multiple times, I want to be able to not start off at ground zero when I go back to generate a new DBQ. So I think that's something that's worth sharing. And I've then gone on to share that with my teachers from when I take off my teacher hat and put on my tech coach hat to say, hey, this is how I did it. And it's awesome, so that when I came back to writing another DBQ, it knew exactly how I wanted that formatted, and it saved me considerable time. And as Lulu mentioned, like, once you say this to it, you'll see, and it goes quickly because Sparky's so quick, but it'll say, I'm working on that memory, or I'm generating that memory, or something like that. And it's really, really awesome that it'll do that. And then, I go back to sort of my profile, and there it is sitting there, and it's long. I mean, it's like, it saved a lot of information in terms of like my structure, my pedagogical approach for the DBQ, and so on. So even though we only get 6 core memories, they can be pretty substantial memories. And I think that that's really important from the teacher perspective in personalizing it. So yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. And it is
Yeah. Awesome to see you, Kat.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like something interesting, and I just want to highlight that you both noted, is like, there is that, and Kelly asked about earlier, is that like there is that character limit to a lot of these pieces. And I do think like, I mean, partially it's like a technical restraint, like we can't add too much to the AI. It's going to get lost, and it won't be able to like prioritize as much of the additional prompting that you put into like activities or chats. But also I do think like it is important to work through and figure out like what it is that is most important to your school. So I would even say like you don't have to treat the like 1,000 characters as like a, can we get as close to this as possible either, because the like fewer words that you have in there, and like the more emphasis that you put on like the things that really matter to your school, the better Sparky will be about like sticking to that. So yeah, I do think like it's a very important conversation to have, and like I'm glad that it's working out for a lot of you all. but yeah, and also, yes, like how Kat specifically said, like, I think the mission and background piece, we actually were working with a Catholic school, I believe, in Long Island. And like they were the ones who like first suggested that. So yeah, like incorporating the like religious mission context has been a very popular use case for there. Yeah, and Kelly's saying like, yes, context over content for sure. Great, yeah. If there's anyone else who wants to share what your school is doing, I know like Kelly, you've probably been doing a lot, Sarah maybe as well. Yeah.
No, we just thank you because you bring us all together. I used to work with Sarah in Lima, so and so it's nice seeing people that we used to work with, and it's nice seeing that everyone is picking up on the trend of Flint. So, you know, we're always been a supporter for you guys. So thanks, Lulu.
Awesome. That's crazy. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, if anyone else wants to add to this topic, let me know. Otherwise, I can do the wrap up a little bit early. Oh, Ashley has a question actually. Can you clarify for the moderation settings? We have settings in place at our main level with counselors and administrators set as those who receive notifications. I can also see that teachers have the settings in each group and class. Can you explain the difference between these? I was under the impression that if they were set at the main level, it would impact all groups and classes within our space. Do we need every teacher to go in and set these per class? Yeah, so if a message is sent like anywhere in Flint, whether it be in like a personal chat or in an activity in a specific class, the workspace level moderators will get messages for those. So yeah, they're basically like a catch-all. They'll like get messages for everything. For the settings in like the group/class, that is like up to the school. I think some schools have like not wanted their teachers to be like on the forefront of like needing to deal with these things. And then some schools have like wanted their teachers involved in each case. So yeah, I think it kind of depends on if you want teachers to be notified in addition to the workspace moderators. Because it is like a in addition sort of situation where teachers would get notified as well. Yeah. Okay, and then Carolyn is saying, I'm not able to pop in with video right now to speak. However, Meg Bratt and her are collaborating to create a freshman vocabulary curricula using Flint at Fordham Prep. If anybody wants to connect and share ideas, please let her know. Awesome. Yeah, super exciting to hear. Yeah, and like I'll actually add this at the end in the wrap up, but we do have some like places for you all to connect offline as well. I of course really love seeing your faces here at the campfires, but we also know that like, you know, this happens once a week at a very specific time. So we're also trying to provide resources for you all to connect otherwise. But yeah, these are the upcoming topics that I have for campfires for the rest of the semester. The ones that say planning mean that the date is not set yet because I still need to like book it with like different teammates and figure out who can come share and everything. So yeah, those are just like, you know, the week of that date listed will have a campfire. But the one for next week on world language is already scheduled. So yeah, those are some of the topics for the rest of this semester. If there's anything specific that you want to see next semester, let me know and I can try and incorporate that in. And then the recording will be published on our website, hopefully sometime today or tomorrow. And anyone here and anyone registered will get a direct email when that's available. So no need to like be checking the website all the time. But this is also where you can see like the rest of the recordings for other sessions as well. And then yeah, these are some QR codes, resources left for you all. So the thing that I was talking about earlier is the Flint community on the right here. We're trying to gather most of like the Flint users in this community so that if you all have any like specific questions or want to connect with others on specific topics or initiatives, that's like a great place to ask for that. Our team is also like kind of active in there, so we can like help out from time to time, but yeah, like really we want it to be like a space for you all by you all. So yeah, if there's any like suggestions that you have for the structure of that community, feel free to also let me know. And then in the middle there, we have our Instagram, which is kind of new. Maybe I can remove the new at this point, but the Instagram is the social media platform that we've chosen to be like our teacher facing one. So we'll add like more like honestly memes and then also teaching tips in there. So that's a fun one to follow if you haven't already. And then this piece is actually very new. Some of you all might have met Jacob from our team, but he's our head of customer success, and he just started conducting office hours. So if there is like anything that you like want to meet really quickly with our team about, you can pop into his office hours there. The times are EST. Yeah, but as we like build out our customer success team, we'll like have more times at like more hours and everything. So yeah, feel free to also join him there if there's anything that you need as well. But yeah, that's all I had for today. Thank you again, Colin and Kat, for sharing, and everyone for their awesome questions in the chat. And I'll hopefully see you in an upcoming week. But yeah,